We're basically looking at a future that is so inhospitable to human life and human civilization in particular, as well as all of the impacts on ecosystems, rainforests, coral reefs that I think none of us want to see.
Climate change affects so many different other areas, like, you know, sort of social justice and poverty and all that stuff. Those are areas that are also incredibly important and perhaps more important, but the problem is that climate change is going to severely worsen all of those scenarios. It's areas that are in poverty and areas with massive social justice issues that are like poised to be the first people like affected by climate change. Yeah, the issues are all interrelated, and all of the injustice in the world really stands to be made worse.
And I think probably what's most important to me in the next 5 to 10 years is that it's the poorer countries, the countries that are least able to adapt and that have caused the smallest amount of the problem, that are going to suffer the most. And I find that really personally just, I can't cope with that. I've got to do something about it.
Most of the governments of the world, and also the sort of major powers like corporations, are still doing nothing towards actually taking action against climate change. So I think it's more important than ever for people in sort of to take up grassroots action basically and take the future into their own hands.
Normal people, so lots of people with day jobs, lots of designers, lots of photographers, lots of scientists, and that's the kind of the point, isn't it? Everyone.
It can be anyone from accountants to stockbrokers.
Really?
To just everyday normal people.
There's just such a lot of kind of positive energy and such a lot of clear thinking.
Ways to practically get involved in the camp, both in setting it up and being a part of, you know, and volunteering to help out with various aspects of the camp, i.e. like things like kitchens or going around checking the loos or, you know, doing that kind of practical thing. And that really appeals to some people, and that's really useful in terms of like the climate camp. Some people just get involved with climate camp to do the practical side of actually setting up a camp.
I went to climate camp at Kingsnorth. I was constantly doing something. It's just like this guy clearly needs help. I'll help him put up this tent, or I'll help do this cooking, and it's just fun because you're doing it together and you know that it's benefiting you and everyone else. I don't know, it just feels like worthwhile, worth your time.
You have this opportunity where there are so many areas of camp where you can learn skills that you hardly ever get a chance to learn in that capability. You know, things like media and the legal team, and there's people there with like massive amounts of experience in doing things that are basically professional job level things, but on a voluntary basis, and they're there and they're happy to like share their skills and experiences with you, and you get an opportunity to do things that you'd never get a chance to do in most spheres of society.
There's loads of workshops on loads of different issues, from sustainable living to political activism to the serious to the fun to the engaging to the technological side.
There's no hierarchy. I think that's also really empowering, and it's a very different system to the system that we live in general society.
Often it's really quite inspiring when you get a group of people, you know, deciding by consensus to do something. It was really can be quite an inspiring moment.
Once you've got that decision, everyone feels responsible for it because you've all had a chance to be part of it. There's nothing more powerful than that.
True, they're painting a picture of climate camp as being like this radical, sort of dangerous movement, and it really is the opposite. It's just common sense, and it's not dangerous at all.
It's an inclusive movement, an inclusive environment where everyone has a say.
It doesn't matter who you are away from, people can come together not knowing anything about each other and just merge on wanting to just make good.
It's really, I mean, I've been to demonstrations. I tried to get into the G20 camp, but that was blockaded by the police. You have those things deterring you, but I don't think people should be deterred by those.
Coming to the camp, like the first time, like between the beginning and the end of the camp, there was a massive change in, for example, my relationship to the police, how I felt about the police. I was frightened of them, I was frightened of their authority.
Legal observers provide them with maximum support and like legal information on what their rights are and what they like, whether they have to give their name and address or if they don't.
And all the support that there is, like you come to realise that actually they're not that frightening. And I was, I can do this too. Like,
in the past camps, we've always had a very big target and a very big like sort of mass action associated with the camp, and it's difficult, especially in a world where you're fighting against potentially like government and corporations that are always doing things that you're unhappy with, to basically just you always feel like you're just saying, don't do this, don't do that, we don't agree with this, we don't agree with that. So it's really nice to give people the opportunity to take practical involvement in sustainable energy sources, to understanding that, compost loos, you know, all that kind of stuff. There's like practical things that you can potentially then take out into your life.
The camp in itself showcases different types of energy production. It has like a few wind turbines, some solar panels, grey water systems, compost toilets, stuff like that. So on the one, yeah, the climate camp is itself exhibiting sustainable solutions to us.
You know, when I come back to my home, one, I really appreciate having all that. And two, it made me really think about like the way we live and how that contrasts with the way most people in the rest of the world live, you know.
Buckminster Fuller said, you don't change something by fighting the existing system. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing one obsolete. So it's like Climate Camp is the very start of that. It's the start of a greater like movement.
No matter what power the corporations and the politicians, the people in power have, it is pretty much a duty for us to have to fight back against it and push for the real solutions, because the solutions from the top aren't going to get us anywhere.
Lots of people talking and debating and discussing and developing ideas and moving forward.
Loads of workshops on loads of different issues.
The majority are very related to learning about climate change and how we can tackle it, but also the true causes behind it. There are also more fun classes like tango lessons. Coming to Climate Camp empowers you to feel that we can tackle and stop this problem, that there is hope for the future.
They'll have lots of fun, they'll meet lots of interesting people, they'll learn lots of new things and leave inspired.
And in the evening, there's people break down into neighbourhoods and like socialise. You have some music, you have some dancing, you have bands. And you meet loads. I met some of the most amazing people I've met at Climate Camp.
I think it's more a question of why wouldn't you come? I mean, anyone who knows anything about climate change can get really horribly depressed. And you know, we've all been in that position. You get to the oh my god, what do I do stage. And for me, it's kind of this is the first positive thing I've seen happen, and you can't really help but get really excited when you get involved in it.
Once people actually come to the camp and experience it for themselves and find out how the people really get along and really do know what they're talking about, and it is life-changing. It did change my life when I went to Drax and thought about it. So I'd say come, find out, you know, find out for yourself.